Now, let's go back to the dark side, right? When it comes down to a person's dark side, again, this can, again, manifest itself in many different ways, right? So can you go through like the different, again, I guess most common types of dark sides that people tend to have, and how can they channel that in the most effective way?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think, and sometimes the discussion kind of centers around stopping or preventing dark side behaviors, but I think the
Yeah,
more productive way is to channel it because people have this like
yeah,
energy that they need to spend
I
somewhere.
agree.
So if you just try and tamp it down, it kind of like it can fester. That like people need
Yeah,
an
you feel
outlet to
suppressed.
spend that.
It's not. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But if you have something that feels better or feels productive or feels useful, a kind of area to spend that energy instead of just tamping it down, then that can be way more productive. So, I mean, the
Absolutely.
paranoid example is a good one, right? Like, if
Hmm.
people are naturally suspicious, then there are definitely areas where that can be useful. Like, if you have a really keen sense of danger, focus that on an area where there potentially is danger. And then there needs to be a feedback loop there to say, okay, these are the types of threats that are realistic, they exist, and you found them. Like if you stopped
Hmm.
a hacker from getting into your network, then that is a really, really powerful kind of positive reinforcement for that. But then making sure that that energy and that focus is not directed on counterproductive areas, because it's really easy then to like, to
Hmm.
shift into surveillance of employees. So instead of looking for external threats, you're over focusing on all of the potential internal threats and then just monitoring people and kind of, um, taking that kind of in a self-destructive or internally destructive direction. The perfectionism is another good one, right? Like if you don't give people who are very conscientious and perfectionistic specific tasks with like success outcomes and deliverables and what does good look like, then they'll try and
Hmm.
fix everything, and that's like a kind of dispersion of that energy. People will try and
Yeah.
focus it everywhere and making things perfect at every level. But if you say this is what we're trying to accomplish, here's what a good example looks like, here's what good enough looks like, we can get it to 90%, it doesn't have to be 110%,
Yeah.
then that's a good way to spend that energy. But a lot of that,
True.
especially in the workplace, is kind of good management and good leadership, right? Is
Okay.
understanding people's kind of unique traits, peculiarities, like their how they like to direct their energy, and giving them enough guardrails and enough focus that they can run with that. Another example, actually, another kind of style is the kind of people pleaser style. So the kind
Mm.
of sensitive, selfless style, I've called that. But it's one that often gets overlooked as a dark side trait because it's not destructive, it's not aggressive, it's not necessarily in
It
your
can be.
face.
It can be.
Well, that's the thing. It can be
Yeah.
because it can be a bit kind of over badgering, over kind of
Yeah.
overly concerned with how
Yeah. It
everything
can be
is. And it can
fake,
be
and people might not like you anymore if they realize that you're kind of just pleasing them and not really being you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Or it can come
Yeah.
across as passive aggressive. Exactly. So there's loads of
Absolutely.
ways that, needing everything to be kind of perfect in an interpersonal perspective, needing harmony in the team, needing people never to argue, can end up having destructive and even kind of authoritarian traits. It's one of the good examples of like how teams can get very destructive together. So you can have a kind of psychopath in charge and then a whole bunch of people who don't want any disagreement and who are really dedicated to harmony within that team, even though it's a hugely, hugely destructive team, right? So you've got a whole bunch of people who are keeping everyone else in line because they just feel the need to keep
Mm.
everything cohesive, no matter what direction people are going in, no matter what direction the team is going in. So you can have people enabling really bad behavior because they want to do good. So again, that's where you need to channel that effort, that energy into positive, constructive endeavors and things that are, helpful instead of ultimately harmful.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. So like as you mentioned, we went through like three types here, which is again paranoid, which again comes down to channeling that in areas that allow you to seek out or find danger. And then your ability to do that, helps you move up or again, helps you do really well in your profession. And the other one was being a perfectionist, having tasks and like structured clarity, in terms of goals on
Yeah.
like, okay, this is what we're looking for. And then if you can hit this, we're good. Right. So they're not like overly concerned about, trying to always, find a way to make it better and then just wasting time and then eventually, going in reverse and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned people pleasing, which is really interesting as you spoke about. People don't view that as like a dark side. Right. But again, it can be something that, people don't like in you because it can come off as like really fake. Right. But again, channeling that in areas that kind of, I guess, um, need people to be kind of like a synergizer and more of like a diplomat, like that tends to
Yeah.
be helpful there, right? Because you can kind of unify people together, understand all sides, and kind of come to a conclusion. Like it tends to work really well in that arena. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing you need to bring it all together is trust. So in a
Cool.
group or in a team or in any environment, you need people to be able to trust each other. And you need to know that people are
Hmm.
different. They've got their different traits. They've got their different skills and they are channeled in the right direction. And you can trust them to do the job that they've done. And you can also trust what they'll tell you based on how they're doing that job. So you can, you've got your security person, you've got your kind of team builder, you've got your leader, you've got your salesperson, and they are
Hmm.
radically different from you, but they're doing their job well and you trust them to do that. So that's why, I mean, leadership is one of the core elements of it is to build that trust among the team because then everyone
Yes.
can channel their energy towards their job instead of double checking what everyone else is doing or second guessing what other people are doing or feeling like you need to be aware of everything because you can't be. So when you kind of have that dispersion of that potentially dark side energy, then it can kind of get destructive and self-destructive and can kind of eat away at all sorts of other things that you don't want it to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.